Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and we're going to take a project on today that I don't know much about. So I'll be the first one to tell you I'm not an expert with this reel, but I have had a request in that they would like to look at a D.A.M quick reel and see how it works and how to maintain it. Now, I just happened to have found this one this past weekend while I was out doing some garage sale shopping, and I came upon a person who had this pole in storage. Unfortunate situation. It's been there for 10 years since the father had died, and they were just looking to clear out some old stuff, and we got a reel that works, which is nice, and it's a super. So first thing I did was I went online and I tried to find out a little bit about D.A.M quick. I've seen the reels before. I didn't know the company history, so I thought I'd start there. And then I've also tried to find some schematics and the like to tell me how this reel works ahead of time. This is actually a request. One of our viewers came in and requested this, and I actually told him I don't know much about working on the reel, but I do understand the handle has to come off in order to service the reel properly, and he gave me the instructions to go get a punch sending pin to knock out a pin on the handle, which should give us access to this reel. So while I'm going through some of the basics, you know, use some latex gloves for hand protection. I use a parts tray for all the small parts, and get started by having the right tools on hand, which I think, or at least I hope we do. I have a soft blow hammer since I got to hit something, and I really it kind of scares me that servicing a reel involves banging metal, but we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to push this pin through, and if this is off camera, I apologize, but I don't have a lot of leverage on this. Okay, hopefully that's through enough. You can see that the pin on the handle has come up now, and we should be able. Maybe we're not knocked all the way through quite yet. Kind of scares me when you have to hit something as part of your servicing, but who knows, maybe that's by design. I'm going to use a little bit of pliers here, hopefully to pull this pin out a little bit more. There we go. So the handle came off. So let's put that in our parts tray, and this is the main gear shaft, and the main gear connects with a spiral pinion gear that turns the spool shaft, and it does that very much like a pen of the time. So let's talk a little bit about D.A.M quick. What is D.A.M quick? Well, D.A.M quick is not the mild expletive there about making the reel fast. It's not, it's spelled D.A.M, but it's an acronym, so it doesn't have anything to do with the water like the Aswan Dam or the Hoover Dam. What it really is it's an acronym for Deutsche Angelgerate Manufaktur. It's a German, and my German stinks, as many of you probably just heard there. But what it really means is German fishing company. And this thing started all the way back in the 1800s as a manufacturing company. Went through several iterations, a couple of world wars. At the end of World War II, it was resurrected as a whole new plant manufacturing in West Berlin, which is where this one was made. As it tells me on the side case here, it says D.A.M. West Berlin, so that tells me if it's West Berlin, it had to be post-war, because there was no East and West Berlin prior to the end of World War II. And the reel here I found was manufactured in the early 1960s. Okay, this is your main drive assembly. Here's a side plate that comes off with that, and we can see that this spiral gear, the crosswind and the crosswind block, is very similar to the pen gearing. So let's go work on this one first. Now this one also has a pin holding the main gear on, and I'm going to try and push that pin through just like I did the other one. That one came out a whole lot easier. Let's see if it came through all the way. Not quite yet. So I'm going to go grab that again. These are roll pins. So every now and then you see them. It's not too common though to see these in fishing reels, but that's what this is. And thank you, Chester, for your telling me how these things work. And as a result, we're having an opportunity to take a look here. Okay, we're still having a little bit of trouble getting this last piece of the pin through here. There we go. So this is the pin. It's a roll pin that goes in my tray as well. That should free the gear off of the shaft now. There we go. That can get pulled off. Whoop, it can't get pulled off because we got to take the screw collar off. And the screw collar is a double functioning device. The first piece of it is that it holds that main gear assembly. The second part of it is that it straightens the handle when you're ready to use that. So, okay, so let's go ahead and grab this with a pliers. See if we can't. There we go. We pulled the main gear off. Now we can push the pin assembly through. So this is high quality metals. You can see that there's a brass bushing in here for the gear sleeve. This looks to be steel for sure. Maybe, I don't think it's stainless because I'm seeing some rust on it. So I'm going to clean that with some 4.0 steel wool. There's not much that needs to be done on this side of the reel. We got a nice slippery reel there. I'm just going to put a little oil on that. I use a Real-X oil for that, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on. I'm going to reassemble this because I don't like small parts of that laying around. If the work has been done there, I'm going to go get that roll pin out and get this restarted here. You'll just have to bear with me because I don't normally work on this reel. As I mentioned, I don't purport to be a pro. I'm just trying to do this so we all learn from it. And if we learn, then one of the things we learn is don't be shy about trying to do work on fishing reels. It's often rewarding, and if nothing else, you learn how things were manufactured and how to keep them running for years to come. So this reel, I did some research on it. I'll post a website on the description of this this video, but there's a fellow in Netherlands who's a collector. I believe his name is Roland Lindegaard or something close to that, Lindeberg, and he was kind enough to put in there dates of manufacture and the types of models that were made and a whole host of useful information about that company. So I find that that's half the fun, is getting to know where these things came from, their history, and then the pride of manufacture that a lot of these companies took in building these fishing reels. All right, well, I'm having a little bit of difficulty here, as some of you can see, with lining this pinhole up. But I'm sure it won't take that long to get this back the way it should be. So this is a good time always to tell you, if you don't know what you're working on, if it's a new experience for you, if it's the first time you've taken a particular fishing reel apart, take pictures. It never hurts, and often helps to figure out what the sequences that you took these things off in. And if you get stuck, not that I'm stuck here, I'm having a little bit of difficulty with the pin, but if you're stuck in terms of the sequence that you put these things in, if you look in your parts bucket, you find out that there's an extra piece in there that you don't know quite where it went or from whence it came, then you can always go back to those pictures. Boy, I hate hitting things that have to do with metal. But apparently that's the way this works. So again, bear with me. I'm sure we'll get this thing done. It just shouldn't be that hard. There we go. All right. I felt it get started there. That's a roll pin, so it expands and when it expands, it sometimes it's a little difficult to get it back into the hole it's being forced into. Okay, so we're pretty much set on that. I'm just going to grab that punch one more time just to put a finished shot on this one here. Alright, so that's kind of the drive gear. Now we have a spiral gear, we have a crosswind gear, we have a crosswind block. This all works very similar to a reel that you take apart today. So we're going to take the screw out of the crosswind block, crosswind block, so that we can get to the spool assembly, and then make sure we can oil the bearing that's up top. Again, high quality reel. So if we take that off, then we should be able to pull the spool assembly out, which we are. I'm going to go clean that. Take the crosswind block off. This is a brass crosswind gear. That slips off, and then we have the crosswind shaft itself. Alright, so we're going to go grab a wrench to take the rotor off. Again, noticing the sequence here. There's a rotor, there's a lock nut, there's a keyway for the rotor, and then there's the rotor itself, and here's the bearing assembly under here. Now this shaft is turning freely. Given the time that we have on these videos, I'm not going to take this apart, but if we needed to remove the bearing in the shaft, we could pull these three nuts and pull all up. I'm just going to use the Real X on the bearings since I oil bearings. And again, I've laid the parts out on the table here. If I was going to come back to these at any longer period, I would put these in my parts bucket so they don't get kicked around. We're going to put the rotor back on. This keyway has that little notch. There's a notch in the rotor itself. We're going to go put that, you have to do two things. It's an oblong, so you have to line that up with the shaft first. Get it on the shaft, and then you have to kind of hold your shaft, turn the rotor until you get the keyway set on that little tab. Lock nut goes on next. Nut goes on next. We've oiled that bearing there. Again, if you had to replace that shaft, you could take those three nuts out of the collar there. Go ahead and pull that shaft up. But one of the things you know, it's a 1962 reel. Parts are not available. So if you lose these parts, if you're a little bit careless in what you're doing here, it becomes consigned as a parts reel. Okay, so now blue grease onto the the spiral gear. Not sure if that's the proper term for it, but you get the idea. I'm going to go put that crosswind gear in. I'm going to go put some blue grease on that because the crosswind block is going to ride there. This has just a little bit of some dirt and grease in there, so I'm going to go clean that out, make that nice and clean. Replace that dirty grease with some blue grease there so that that can slide on the nub here. I'm going to go clean that shaft off. Again, that looks like it's got some contamination and some things, so I'll wipe that down and I'll grab my steel wool. High quality product parts here for sure. Alright, you reinsert that through. That comes through the gear. And there's a hole in the bottom of that shaft that lines through the crosswind block. There we go. And there's a long screw that we took out. And again, this is where pictures are helpful. If you didn't realize which screws went where, you could go back to your pictures and realize, okay, that's the long screw goes there. Okay, now we're about ready to put this back together again. Okay, I'm going to take the side plate, make sure that that crosswind block is on the crosswind gear, which we just did there. Go line the case up again. Grab a case screw. So what are we learning here? We're learning, you know, you don't need to necessarily be bold to go work on reels that you don't know about. You have to take the first step. You have resources out there, the website that I'll post for you. Sometimes you have to ask, right? Chester was kind enough to tell me that the way that this works in terms of the handle in order to get this done. So seek out advice from people that have worked on these type of reels if you're having trouble. And oh, by the way, in all of my videos I ask for comments and questions, and I try to answer as best I can. If you're working on a reel and you're getting in trouble, if I've had the problem before, if I know the corrective action, I'm certainly open to trying to help as well. That's the idea behind these videos to begin with. And then it's kind of learn along, right? It's learn along with me. Let's go figure out what some of these things are. And if we got one that is going to help you keep a memory, in this case this reel does help you keep a memory. I had an uncle who fished these reels back in the 1960s. I actually have his reel. It's not this reel, but it's a quick super. It's missing some pieces and parts to it. I guess that's why I probably have it in the end. But at the end of the day, if we can help you do that, then that's kind of what this is about. All right, so we're kind of reversing the sequence now. That handle nut goes on to hold that main shaft in. That's another one you just need to make sure is threaded properly. I think I got it there. And there was a little washer that went on. That's the one when we back that nut off is going to hold the handle square. And then we're going to put this handle back in. Try and line that to there. And boy, I'll tell you what, these pins just make me nervous. I mean, maybe that's what I learned on this thing is that I don't like beating up metal. But this one looks like let's see if we can kind of work this the other way. Put a pin in on this side to hold it. There you go. So I came in from behind it. I centered it with a different pin. Putting it on there. Let's see what we got here. We're going to back this off now. That'll square up the handle. Not quite squared up yet. There you go. And look at that. We got a nice working reel. Now I didn't have time today to get to the drags. This has a tight drag. It's clearly functional. I believe that this one has a connection underneath it. We'll leave that for another day. But I believe if you do need to service the drags on these, they have to be done from the underside. Yes, there's 4 nuts under screws under here that have to be removed. That would break this collar off here, and then the drag assembly would be underneath there. But again, it's unfortunate I don't have the time on this video to do that today. So I hope this has been valuable. If you have a D.A.M quick, I think it showed you most of the things. How to get that handle off, how to get the main gear out of the sleeve, the quality of the product. We saw a very nice steel brass gearing in there. And we got a smooth reel that's almost 60 years old here. How do you like that? This is working a whole lot better than it did when I picked it up at the garage sale, where it was sitting idle for the last 10 years. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Comments and questions always appreciated. If you liked the video, please like it. If you saw something I did that can be done easier, this is my first attempt at this one. If there's a trick out there, I'd love to learn it. If you'd like to see more of them, please subscribe. So again, thanks for watching. This is Dennis. Appreciate your time with the video.